Lindsay, we're ready to go.
I'm on camera now.
Great, thanks everybody. Good evening, my name is Brendan Magnan. I'm the chair of the Inland Wetlands Commission for the City of Milford. This evening, I'd like to call to order the public hearing and regular meeting of the Inland Wetlands Agency for July 20th, 2022. Lisa, please call the roll.
Ranjit Bahav.
Here.
Daniel Bedecker.
Here.
Jim Connors.
There.
Matthew Connors. Dave DeFlameri. Heather Donaldson Gladue.
Here.
Steve Munson. Jerry Panico. Lisa Tryon.
Here.
Brendan Magnan.
And I'm here. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is a public hearing and a regular meeting. And as we continue to host remote meetings, want to take the opportunity to remind everybody of the statutory guidelines that we need to be following in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and Governor Lamont's executive orders. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the Milford website. It's being broadcast on YouTube as we speak. Please, if you wish to be acknowledged by the chair, please raise your hand if you have something to say. And in the first instance, when you're speaking for the first time, please state your name and address before making a statement. At this time, I'd like to invite everybody to stand, and if Mary Rose, if you could share the flag, we would pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One
one nation,
under
under God, indivisible,
With
liberty
and
and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to invite the public to speak on anything on topics not otherwise on the agenda. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on topics not otherwise on the agenda? Going once, going twice, going a third time, hearing none, moving on. Maris, do you want to introduce the public hearing procedures?
Sure. Normally, we do have a sign-up list on the website. We had no one sign up for that list this evening. And we do not have members of the public in attendance. We do have the applicant's consultants here. Obviously, we're looking for civil discourse. Remain mute if you're not being recognized by the chair. For the public speaking, they would need their name and address. We'll cover things only in the jurisdiction of the Inland Wetlands Agency, and we'll have decorum and not interrupt. And under section 8.14 of the bylaws, the chairperson may limit the time frame for speaking to 5 minutes per speaker. The first item, or the public hearing item, is item D1, IWA 220052, 33 Howard Court, map 30, block 639, parcel 34. Graham Wiley is the property owner. It's the proposed raise and reconstruction of a single-family home with construction, grading, and associated infrastructure in and within 100 feet of wetlands and watercourses in the South Central Shoreline watershed.
Great. At this time, I would invite the applicants to introduce themselves, or the applicant team, I should say, to introduce themselves and present your application.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ronald Wasmer. I'm a professional engineer and a land surveyor with an office at 158 Research Drive, Milford, Connecticut. Also with me this evening is Linda Lewis. She's a designer with my firm, and Bill Kenny, professional wetland biologist. I'm representing Graham Wiley, the property owner and the applicant. We're here this evening to present the plans for the reconstruction of a single-family residence at 33 Howard Court. This application has had preliminary discussions at your June 15th meeting. We also conducted a site walk on July 5th to review the delineation of the wetlands, and we continued preliminary discussions on July 6th. I'm now presenting this within the regulations of a requested public hearing. Some of this presentation may be redundant, however, the intent is to submit a complete record for the purpose of a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt, I'm sorry, Mr. Wasmer, just for a second. Just to do some procedural things. The certificates of mailing were received and are in the document links. And the file contents list is also in the document links. Thank you, Mr. Wasmer, sorry.
Thank you.
You may
So I'm
proceed.
going to describe the plan set. Mary Rose, can we look at the existing condition survey?
You sure can. Hold on just a second.
Thank you very much. So the site is approximately 0.76 acres. There are 0.51 acres of wetlands and approximately 0.25 acres of upland. There's an existing home on the property. The site is bounded on the north by Howard Court. Howard Court is paved for a short portion in front of this lot. The majority of Howard Court is an unimproved public road. It's bounded on the east and the south by lands of the city of Milford. These parcels contain a significant portion of wetlands. It's bounded on the west by a single-family residence, also known as 29 Howard Court. Wetlands on the property were flagged by William Kenny Associates, and William Kenny is here in the meeting this evening. I participated in the site walk with the commission on July 5th to review the delineation of the wetlands. I'd like to now look at the proposed plan SP1. There you go. So this plan is really intended for a zoning permit, the SP1. However, it does clearly show the wetlands, the proposed house, and the proposed improvements without the clutter of existing contours, mitigation comments, etc. So you'll see the proposed house in the center of the lot with a proposed garage closer to Howard Court. You'll also notice that we have a proposed road extension. That is a result of a meeting with Chris Saley, the Director of Public Works. We wanted to get his input on this, prior to presenting this to your commission. The typical requirement for Public Works is to extend the road across the entire frontage of any lot that doesn't have an improved road in front of it. However, in this instance, with the wetlands and the close proximity of the wetlands to this unimproved road, this was a suggestion of Chris Saley, and so therefore it's presented on the plans. In a previous plan, we did propose to fill a small area of wetlands. Initial review by the commission requested we consider moving the proposed location of the house to avoid that wetland filling. That previous plan is included in the plan set as alternate number 2. We can look at that in a short time. Also included in the plan is alternate number 1, which orientates the house parallel to Howard Court in a typical approach for a house of this nature. That alternate required significant area of wetlands and was therefore rejected by the applicant to the plan presented as a prudent and feasible alternative to the conventional location of the proposed house as indicated on alternate number 1. As part of the road extension, we've indicated a bioswale for runoff from Howard Court. It actually doesn't show up on this plan. I guess we can look at the landscape and wetland mitigation plan, which is probably the next sheet or two. There we go. Presently, there's no avenue for runoff at the end of Howard Court. It just leaves the end of the pavement and finds its way towards the wetlands. So we've proposed this bioswale. It was something that we elected to do to reduce the potential for erosion of upland soils towards the wetlands and to provide treatment of storm runoff prior to discharge of the runoff adjacent to the wetlands. There is a comment in the city engineer's report about including an energy dissipator. I felt that this proposed bioswale actually served that purpose. So I don't intend on putting an energy dissipator at the end of what we proposed as an energy dissipator. This landscaping and mitigation plan depicts an areas of upland to be enhanced in support of the proposed application. You'll notice from basically from wetland number 7 through number 9, we've proposed a buffer of shrubs, and then also from wetlands number 10 all the way through wetlands number 20. We did propose creation of wetlands in the vicinity of flags number 14, 15, 16, and 17. On further discussions and site visits with Bill Kenny, the discussion is that we would not excavate this area. There is a Mary Rose, I'm going to ask you to go forward to another sheet. I think there's another landscaping and mitigation plan. There we go. Thank you. So this proposed area does include a healthy pin oak tree, and we don't want to damage that tree by excavating soil out. So in lieu of excavating uplands, we're at this point just proposing to remove invasive species, and there's some vines growing on or near this existing pin oak. The proposal does include the removal of a large oak tree as depicted on the plans. I know that was a request by the commission. You'll notice just off the southeast corner of the house is that 40-inch oak tree that we discussed at the site walk. I discussed this with Bill Kenny, and his recommendation was to install 4 new pin oak trees spaced approximately 30 feet on center, actually within the wetlands. And I will have William Kenny discuss those comments in the tree during his presentation. Now I'd like to look at the grading, drainage, and utility plan. The site is generally gentle sloping up from the street towards a knoll and then downwards towards the wetlands. There's a steep drop off of approximately 3 vertical feet just upslope of the wetlands. The proposal is to construct a shallow landscape wall slightly upslope of the wetlands. The intention is to facilitate grading for the new construction and to create a vertical barrier to prevent intrusion into the wetlands. The landscape wall will have a picket fence along the top of the wall, and wetland notification markers will be installed on the fence. Again, a buffer of native shrubs will be installed between the new house and the wetlands and the retaining wall to enhance habitat. The proposed house will be connected to municipal sanitary sewer and public water, storm runoff, groundwater recharge, and the Connecticut DEP recommended water quality volume is proposed by 80 lineal feet of 12-inch by 48-inch galleys. These galleys system is designed using the City of Milford Engineering Bureau standards for a 25-year storm of 24-hour duration. The city standards greatly exceed the Connecticut DEP recommendations for water quality volume. The next sheet in the plan set is an erosion control plan. So you'll see that we've included silt fence around the proposed construction. We also have a anti-tracking pad adjacent to Howard Court. And we've brought the silt fence around to encompass the proposed road extension in the biosphere. The next couple pages are details of your typical driveway approach, the bioswale as we talked about, a detail of the retaining wall, landscaping wall. And last in the plan set are the two alternatives that we've submitted. Alternative number one, again, as I discussed earlier, proposes the house to be parallel with the street, which is the typical approach for a new construction. However, this approach would require significant filling of wetlands. So this approach was rejected in lieu of the proposal that we have now. And again, as I had mentioned earlier in my presentation, the initial application had proposed to fill approximately 190 square feet of wetlands. That's shown on alternate plan number 2. We did revise and resubmit plans to the plans that we have now to eliminate the need for the filling of that wetlands. That concludes my portion of the presentation. At this point, I'll turn it over to William Kenny, and then I will entertain any questions that the commission has. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wasmer. Mr. Kenny?
Good evening. I'm Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield. I'm a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. I'm coming to you tonight from my car because I just left the wetlands meeting in Stratford. So let me know if there's any technology issues with my presentation, please. We were involved with this project first over a year ago when we were hired to map out the wetlands. And so we did the wetland delineation for the project. And then in the last month, about a month ago, we're contacted to ask to take a look at it to see, review the proposed development, come to a conclusion about impacts to the wetlands, and perhaps provide some recommendations where the project could be improved to help the wetlands in one way or another. So certainly, starting with the previous designs that were proposed where there were direct impacts to the wetlands, fill and so forth, this project is a great step in the right direction. But it certainly is challenging due to the amount of wetlands on a relatively small lot. And the wetlands themselves extend down the entire east side of the property and include the southern portion of the property. And the northern portion of the wetland is mostly a woodland wetland. So there's trees and shrubs dominate. And as you move south, it becomes a marsh wetland where there's little to no woody vegetation. It's mostly the invasive common reed or Phragmites australis. And I want to point out, it's one way to control Phragmites is through shade. It does not tolerate shade. So the wooded areas in the northern portion of the wetland are doing well with holding back the Phragmites, and where there's fewer trees in the south, it's the dominant species. With regard to the proposed design now, the preferred design, there's no activities, no development within the wetland, and the project does include soil erosion and sediment control measures and stormwater management measures as discussed by Ron. And these measures are very important when working close to a wetland. During construction, you want to make sure you're trapping sediment and minimizing erosion, soil erosion. So with what Ron has designed, if those erosion and sediment control measures are installed properly and carefully maintained, I believe that this project can be completed without any significant impacts to the wetland. And then after construction, and as opposed to the existing conditions where there's a house and pavement and there's the stormwater runoff from the existing house and from the existing portion of the road that's on this property, that water is not being treated today with any formal measures. So with the new design, it has been designed in such a way that the stormwater runoff from impervious surfaces is being collected and treated. And so that's a good thing. There's an increase in impervious surface, but this plan includes these stormwater treatment measures, and the existing development does not have that. So I think that that will prevent long-term, the potential for long-term impacts from stormwater runoff with this project. And then the landscape wall that Ron described that runs north to south, just east of the proposed residence, right along the wetland boundary. That wall with a picket fence across the top of it will provide a significant demarcation feature to minimize the potential for, there certainly won't be, on other projects, you might have the potential for someone to expand their lawn into a wetland, but with the fence and with the wall, which will give you a change in elevation of a few feet, you're not going to have that potential for expansion of lawn into the wetland in that area. Just at the southern tip of the proposed house is that big, beautiful red oak tree that is proposed to be removed. And that tree has a canopy that extends out over the wetland, and because of that does affect the wetland. And I believe the two primary ways that it affects the wetland is it casts shade over the wetland. And as I mentioned earlier, shade is one way to help control the growth of the invasive common reed. And the tree also, particularly when it's leafed out during the growing season, intercepts rainwater, precipitation, and so that affects how much water is falling on that small area of the wetland. So a couple things to consider with regard to those two factors is, one, this wetland, its water source is primarily groundwater and water that comes from the large watershed that feeds this wetland. So although rainwater plays a part in the water budget for the wetland, it's a pretty minor piece. So water being intercepted by that tree is not significant to the health of this wetland. But the shade is helpful with controlling the growth of the invasive vegetation. The tree also provides habitat for wildlife, and but it's primarily upland wildlife. It's certainly not amphibians or reptiles, but it's trees close to the coast of Long Island are important for migratory birds. And the tree, particularly oak trees, provide a lot of insect life for birds to feed on, and the tree is a good resting place for birds that are crossing Long Island Sound during their migration. So with that being said, what we propose is that replacing that one oak tree, it's a very large tree with, at this point, we're proposing 4 pin oak trees. The tree that's proposed to be removed is in the upland, so it's not a wetland tree. But due to the development, we're proposing to put these new trees in the wetland, and pin oak is a great wetland tree, not as common as red maple, so it provides some good diversity to this wetland. And we're proposing that it be spread out along the wetland boundary to help cast shade and to, in the future, help to control the growth of the common reed in the wetland area and control that invasive plant. We are recommending, there are some other trees in the wetland today that are being impacted by invasive vines. So we definitely recommend removing those vines from those trees to allow those trees to grow and their canopies to spread, and also provide habitat and control of the common reed over time. That large tree today, its root system is primarily located in the upland area of the site. It's not being a wetland tree. When its roots extend down towards the wetland, they're primarily going to stop at the wetland's edge because it's just too wet that they won't grow into the wetland. So most of its root system is in the area of proposed development for the property. So, and the tree is only about 5 feet or so off the house. But even if you move the house back 10 feet or so, that you'd be impacting a significant amount of the root system for that tree. And I think that it would provide a safety issue for and a hazard for future falling and hitting the house or falling on a person. So we propose to replace it with new trees that are located further from the house, that are located in the wetland. So it has less potential to impact the house and greater potential to help the wetland in the future. We did, I apologize, we were delayed, but we did complete a report regarding the testimony I just gave, and I emailed that to Mary Rose late today, but we did provide a written report regarding the observations that we've made and the recommendations. So that is in the record. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Kenny. We did receive the report and had a chance to look at it. Mary Rose is showing it on the screen at the moment. Appreciate the diligence that you put into that. So in your expert testimony, the functions and values of the wetlands will not be adversely impacted by the design, the proposed design, correct?
Yes.
Would you argue that some of the changes based on what you just reported, some of the design elements like the proposed 4 trees, as well as the sort of stability that's going to be put in as an overall sort of long-term view, is that going to have, in the stormwater treatment, is that going to have sort of a net positive impact overall?
It's hard to measure to that detail. I would say it's a possibly a slight increase in habitat value. I put that in my report where I compare functions before and after, but particularly for vegetation, wetland vegetation and wildlife, there's a slight benefit by adding the trees in the wetland rather than next to the wetland. And I think with the stormwater management, there's also a slight benefit, but overall, it's safe to say that it won't be an adverse impact, but that's where I think I'd like to lay down my findings.
Fine. Is 4 enough? Is there a reason to have another one north of the 4 that are designed? Sorry, I'm referring to the trees. You can
Right. As you go north, that's when you start to enter into the area that's already forested. But I think if it'd be good to add, sure, we could add one more, and if these were even a little bit closer together and have a total of 5.
Can I offer an opinion here?
Mr. Connors, go ahead.
Yeah, instead of maybe adding the other tree, go a larger caliper. I don't know what you were planning to do, 2.5, 3, but go a larger caliper of the ones you're planting, give them a real head start.
The one concern I have with that is when planting in a wetland, it is a stressful condition, and you actually have better luck
With a smaller tree, right?
with a right to adjust.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if you have 5, if one happens to die, then you
Still have 4.
Yep.
Okay. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
I like the consideration. I mean, I would just want to make sure that there's adequate. Mr. Kenny, I'm going to defer to your expertise, but
Through you, Mr. Chair.
yes.
In the public hearing format, we usually have the presentations and then do the question and answer.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
No, thank you for reminding me. I took us down this path. Right. So pursuant to the public hearing format, I'd like to call any attendees in favor. I don't see any members of the public. So,
There are no.
I mean, I see a Lindsay N. Is that?
That is our MGAT recorder.
Right. Okay. So for the record, we don't have any members of the public that can speak in favor or in opposition of this. So Mary Rose, what's the protocol from here?
There's none in favor, none against. There's no need for an applicant's rebuttal or re-presentation. So we'd ask Mr. Wasmer if he's done with his main presentation, and then we would go to agency's questions.
Right on. Mr. Wasmer, did you want to wrap up on your presentation? I know you mentioned.
Yeah, I think I've said what I needed to say this evening, and I appreciate Bill's expertise in the functionality and the impacts of the wetlands, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions or entertain comments that the commission has.
Thank you. Okay, so to the commissioners, you've had a chance to hear the testimony. We've obviously seen this application before this evening. We've got the expert report from our wetland scientist. Are there questions that you might have for Mr. Kinney or Mr. Wasmer?
I personally think it's been well presented, well thought out plan, and I asked the question I had.
I agree, by the way, and likewise, my number one concern was the impact of removing that large tree. And I think Mr. Kinney has explained the design rationale, and overall, it's a very well designed plan, in my opinion.
I personally think that tree would die in the end because of the root structure. It's going to be disturbed, and it needs a lot of roots for a big tree that big.
Yeah. Ms. Tryon.
I just wanted to say that I being at that walkthrough, that was a big, beautiful tree, but I agree it's probably going to die from the construction. But I liked your suggestion of adding an extra pin oak in the back towards the south there. I think that would be really a good thing to do. But I think overall it'll work well.
Sounds good. Any other comments or questions? So I guess, Mr. Kenny, maybe Mary Rose, you could kind of bring up did we lose Mary Rose? No. Okay. You
I'm
moved.
here.
The screen moved. Okay. Mr. Bahave.
Oh, yeah, hello. Well, actually, I would like to appreciate the effort taken by the applicant to eliminate the direct impacts to wetlands. And, I do feel sad for the tree, but, it is the cost of the development. And although, 4 trees cannot make up for 1 large tree, but, I would say it is definitely a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Commissioner Bahave. And I guess, Mr. Kenny, there is this sort of sense or intuition that we'd have that 5 would be better than 4. Like, is that something that you would endorse, or because I think if we're going to vote on this matter, we need to make sure it's conditioned on the design as presented or as amended.
Yeah, I recommend that you do move forward with 5 new trees.
And how would you lay those out? Just closer together, kind of starting in the same space in the north side and the south, and putting them a little bit
Yes.
closer together?
Yep, I think keeping them running roughly parallel with the wetland boundary that's south and east of the house, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, that's fantastic. Great. Mayor Rose, do you have any other thoughts or concerns that you would like to raise?
No, we had raised the issue and the concern about the loss of the canopy from that large oak and the maple and the trees that would be lost in an effort to do mitigation. And I think Mr. Kenny's mitigation plan from that basically states we'll save the tree. We won't, or I mean, we'll take those 2 trees down. We'll add 4, now 5 trees that are wetland species trees. We won't do the 245 square feet of wetland mitigation and impact existing trees. Instead, we'll do a mitigation of removing vines to allow the trees that exist to survive. I do have one question for Mr. Kenny. Mr. Kenny, would you recommend a 3-year mitigation monitoring period to ensure that the trees, the 5 trees you put in and the few trees that you're going to clear the vines around have vine clearing on an annual or biannual basis to ensure that they really get their feet in the ground and grow, rather than just let them go without monitor?
I think that's a great idea.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary Rose. Anything else?
No, I think the additional reports and presentation and the revised plans covered my concerns. Thank you.
Great. So this evening we can continue the public hearing to a time date certain, or we could close the public hearing. Sounds like we need a motion to close it.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. And Lisa, could you do a vote? All in favor?
We get the roll call.
Yes.
Ranjit Bahav,
Yeah, here.
are you agreeing to close the public hearing?
Hello?
Are you agreeing to close the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Heather Donaldson Gladue,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon.
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. The public hearing is closed. At this time, I'm willing to entertain a motion,
I'll make that motion.
please.
Mr. Chairman, after duly considering all relevant factors, I move to approve application IW-A-22-0052, 33 Howard Court, based on the plans entitled Site Plan 33 Howard Court, Milford, Connecticut, by CT Civil Group. 8 sheets dated 5/17/22. Revised sheets T-1, SP-1, LS-1, GDU-1, ES-1, D-1, AP-1, revised 6/30/22. Sheet LS-1, revised 7/13/22. LS-2, revised 6/8/22. The information in the file and presented this evening for the following reasons. This action will not have an impact or effect on the physical characteristics of the adjacent wetlands and watercourses, with conditions including the permittee must submit a construction plan prior to take out the permit. Wetland notification to be placed on the as-built and then the property deed to give notification to property owners that permits are required from the MIWA to work on the site. Documentation to be submitted to the MIWA office prior to bond release. Compliance with the city engineer's requirements for stormwater. $6,890 bond to be calculated must be posted with the MIWA for S&E controls, border plantings, wetland boundary markings, and an as-built showing finished roof contours and locating all site structures. A mitigation monitoring bond to be calculated must be posted with the MIDA prior to site disturbance for mitigation plantings and a minimum of 3 years mitigation monitoring by professional wetland scientists and reports to the MIWA at the start of mitigation and then twice a year for a minimum of 3 years. Report to include the status of the site and any recommended corrective actions or amendments to the mitigation plan for best stabilization of the site. If there is a recommended correction action, there must be an inspection and a report by the professional wetland scientist within 1 week of the corrective action being taken in construction or maintaining any structure or facility or conducting any activity hereon authorized hereon. The permittee shall employ best management practices to control stormwater discharges, to prevent erosion and sedimentation, and to otherwise prevent pollution of wetlands and watercourses. Best management practices include, but not limited to, practices identified in the Connecticut guidelines for soil erosion and sedimentation control as revised 2004, Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual, Department of Transportation, Connecticut DOT, Drainage Manual as revised, and Department of Transportation Standard Specifications as revised. The permittee must also submit a certification by the project engineer that the completed project meets the design intent of the approval prior to bonds being released. The permit is issued 7/20/22, expires 7/20/27 unless otherwise provided by statute. Should I add about adding to the conditions, I'd like to add the fifth tree, making it 5 pin oak trees instead of 4, equally spaced, and the vines being taken down from the existing trees and maintained. That is my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. We have a motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I had a typo in the motion. There was a revision to ES1. It was revised 7/20/22.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
And Mary Rose, just for discussion, is the bond that's calculated sufficient to cover the monitoring of the 5 trees?
No, I calculated the construction bond. I did not have the information to calculate the mitigation monitoring bond. I'll need to speak to Mr. Kenny about that tomorrow.
So do we need to amend the motion to include?
To include Mary Rose's bond increase to cover the mitigation.
There was a mitigation monitoring bond mentioned in the motion.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
we're just gonna
Sorry, yeah,
going to modify the number.
Thanks for clarifying that. Any other discussion on the motion? And we did tie the motion to the recommendation of Mr. Kenny as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, hearing no discussion, Lisa, roll call vote, please. All in favor?
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Heather Donaldson Gladue,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon.
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
I'm in favor of the motion. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Wassmer, Mr. Kenny, thank you very much for your due diligence, and good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you to the commission.
Thank you. At this time, we will turn our attention to our regular portion of the meeting, starting off with consideration for the minutes from the site walk held at the Howard Avenue property, as well as the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'm going to abstain from the site walk because I did it personally. I didn't do it with the group.
I'm going to abstain as well. I was not there.
Okay. do
I
we
would
have-
also like to abstain from sidewalk meeting report.
Okay. Do we have a motion, Mr. Bedeker? Could you make a motion to approve the sidewalk minutes as presented?
I make a motion to approve the site walk minutes as amended,
As presented, yeah.
as presented.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. So we have Mr. Connors, Mr. Bave, and Heather Donaldson Clodu abstaining. So Lisa, please call the roll.
So then it's just Daniel Bedeker,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan,
Aye.
and Lisa Tryon.
Great. Motion carries. And next we have the motion. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as
I'll
presented?
make that motion, Brendan.
Thank you. We have a second.
I will second that.
All those in favor, Lisa?
Rinchi Bahav,
Aye.
Daniel Bedeker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Heather Donaldson Gladue,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Mayor Rose, moving to staff report.
We've got somebody coming into the meeting. Right, the staff report, we continue to be busy. Some are busy. We've got a lot of people still trying to get pools and things in. We have had some bond release requests. I've been out of the office a little bit, so we haven't finished those off. We've got a number of minor reviews, renovations and things, and I'm working on a number of projects to bring to you. I'm not sure that we'll have them ready for next month, but by the fall, you'll see some old projects reconstituted and some new projects coming in. The city is in the process of updating its hazard mitigation plan. I sit on the hazard mitigation committee and work with the South Central Regional Council of Governments on that plan. It's updated every 5 years, and we're looking for public input through an online survey. There'll be a public meeting in August or September that'll be virtually online. I will send you an email with a flyer and a fact sheet. I may have done that in yesterday with your notes. But there's also a direct link to the Survey Monkey here in my notes this evening. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to do. It's not an extensive survey, but it's just your awareness of hazard mitigation and what you would be looking for in your hazard mitigation plan. We tend to focus on coastal flooding here in the city. We also have riverine flooding, but the plan addresses everything from, not here, but tsunamis to dam failures and wildfires, and pretty much everything in between. I've included the training links again. I have to do an audit, but I think almost all of us have received our certificates for the DEP training, and I will double check that for you for the next meeting. Connecticut Land Use Academy is always a good use of time on a hot day if you don't want to sit out in the sun. They have some good training online. We have been working on a couple of projects. I may have a violation for you. I've gone out on a couple of violations that turned out to be tidal wetland violations. We did receive the spring reporting mitigation monitoring report for 8 Pepe's Farms Road, the held property that was a violation last summer. The site is doing well according to Jen Benno. One of the plantings is distressed, and there's some volatility vegetation that needs to be cut back from it to ensure the shrubs continue to grow. Mrs. Held has stated by email that she would have the plant watered and the vegetation cut back as her consultant suggested. And if you have any, does anyone have any questions for me this evening?
No, thank you, Mary Rose, for your report.
All righty. We have the chair report.
Moving on to the chair's report. The next meeting will be August 3rd. That is a regular meeting, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Please, as a reminder, let the staff know if you're unable to attend. Do I hear a motion for adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Lisa, please call the roll.
We have a second.
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you.
Rinchi Bahav,
Aye.
Daniel Bedeker,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Heather Donaldson Gladue,
Aye.
Lisa Tryon.
Aye.
Brendan Magnet.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, for your participation this evening. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Meeting is
Have a
adjourned.
good night. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.